Well, you guys are here. You came all this way to visit us. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, so much.
Okay.
I've got
Fair enough.
I've got lots. So we've got a bunch of questions.
Okay.
We want to pick your brain, and I think we have our own questions, but we also kind of put it out there.
Okay.
Okay, for like viewer submission questions that
Awesome.
I've
I love it.
collated. I've also kind of gone like, I know the answer to that one, or there were a lot of things that were
They know
repeated.
you know the answer. They want to hear him say.
I know. So I'm going to ask some of those.
Okay. Shoot.
The first thing though I wanted to ask. So we're in August. It's a little over a year since you became CEO president, right? It was May of last year.
It's a little fuzzy.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's like anything. Some things are good, some things are hard.
Yeah.
Some things could be better, some things could be a heck of a lot worse. With Taylor, because we're a bunch of people with relationships. We have relationships with each other, with the work that we do. A lot of the decisions that we make, they're not as like hard and fast as you might think, because we don't operate like most companies. We're not, a giant corporation that goes, well, there's this and here's and after this many years you get to, like a lot of our decisions, they happen in hindsight to go, oh, well, that happened somewhere back there. We'll just call it what it is now. And so even that transition, that was sort of just happening as a organic process for a long time.
Got it. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And when we think about when I think about the work that I get to do, what thrills me is that it's still guitar making. I'm still the chief guitar designer, and that's probably what I put most of my time into every day. And that's partly because I have great relationships with a team of executives who are experts in their own field. We have an amazing group of people, but kind of under the leadership of a finance person. She's wonderful. She's absolutely wonderful as a CFO, I guess. We have an amazing sales team. We have a great, like Chris Wellens is our head of manufacturing. He's got a great team of people under him. He's been here his entire adult working life. He started here like literally as a teenager. So you look at that and go, man, the reason that I get to do what I get to do is because we have amazing people working here. And I'm fortunate for that.
That's awesome.
So it's going well.
So, follow-up question on that. Since it was kind of this gradual organic thing, since the official thing happened, have there been like specific bumps or learning curves or anything that kind of stand out to you of like, oh, okay, this is a little different now that I'm, have the title or the role or what have you?
Yeah, there's little hiccups around. There's little hiccups here and there. And I think Bob's description's a pretty good one because I heard him describe it more recently. He goes, well, it's like I'm a grandparent. I get to hug and love on this baby that we call Taylor, and when it has a dirty diaper, I hand it to Andy. Oh, yeah, that's kind of what that looks like some days. Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last few years, especially, we got a good relationship with JR.
Yep.
He's the man. And, I feel like for the store and for the videos and all that stuff, we always are excited when new stuff comes out. And whether it be kind of like a whole new body style and something like a big dramatic change or even just little tone wood changes or finish changes, I kind of want to know, for some of these ideas, say Iron Bark or Urban Asters, what's like the gestation period of when y'all first have the idea and you experiment with it and then it hits the store? Like, and does that vary between?
That's a good question. It varies based on the project. I mean, seems reasonable. Some things I'll have an idea and I'll work on it that night or that morning or the next day or next week or whatever, and it's going to come to fruition pretty quick.
Yeah.
Because it was really the last piece in that puzzle that went, oh, it was this idea, except that it made this whole picture make sense. Yeah. And so now it's going to go forward quickly. So some ideas are like that. Other ideas are, I'm going to stew with this for a year or two. And eventually this is going to turn into something. Mm-hmm. Some ideas are further away than that. go, well, I made this thing. I don't even know how to build it in any sort of production sense. This is probably 5 years away or more. Sometimes it's a half-formed thought. Go, well, this was really interesting, and I'm going to put it on a shelf and wait until the rest of the completing pieces of this picture arrive, and then I'm going to put them together. So that you've got projects that are for 10 years from now, you got projects that are for 5 years from now, you got projects that are for next year or next week. It's all of it. In the case of, you mentioned the urban woods, you referenced that. With that project, that was one that started as a concept, and then we had to go through a process to see if it was even viable. Made some discoveries, met some people who could really help out and show us, yeah, this is a thing. And by the time it actually turned into a practical action, to go, well, I'm getting my chainsaw, and we're going to go to a log yard, and I'm going to walk around like this is a farmer's market, and I'm taking samples. I'm going to take my chainsaw and go, this one looks good. Let me cut a piece off, take it back, and see what does this do. Because I don't know a thing about this wood, that wood, or that one. I know what it's like. I can see what I can see. I can sense, what it's similar to, and make some comparisons and make some judgment calls based on that. But that was several years just to see what some of these woods might behave like. Go, well, I'm not going to just build a guitar and then introduce it. I don't know what it's going to be like in 6 months. I can make some educated guesses, and I've got enough experience to make a good educated guess, but I still want to watch and see. Some of those projects were several years in the making, just in doing the materials research behind it to know, well, here's a drying recipe that always works. Here's enough variety, enough material came from enough different individual trees where I can know that it's not just an anomaly. You need a big enough sampling to go, here's how I could put a whole system in place around this and know that it's going to work well. So it depends.
So taking the newish 500 series with the Urban Ironwork, you go through the whole process of figuring out how it's going to behave, how it's going to sound, how it's going to age, all that, pairing it with the top, and then how much after that, when you know the formula is good, is it fun? Is it something that you put a lot of work into, what the aesthetic appointments of that series is going to look like?
I love that. That part actually goes pretty quick.
Yeah.
That part goes pretty quick because I'll have different ideas, but they're usually informed by what kind of the whole aesthetic of the guitar.
Yeah, it's
what's it got to look like? What's it got to feel like?
Yeah.
It's almost like putting together a custom, but on a larger scale.
Yeah.
And so with, say, the new 500 series, that was probably 4 or 5 years of just working with that wood, so I know, what does it do? How do I dry it? How do I work with it? Building a variety of guitars, putting it with different tops, different body styles, different things to go, okay, what's it do when I do this? What's it do when I do that? What's it like, and what's it like when it goes wrong? What's it like how do I make it always go right? You kind of find out the rules of the road.
Yeah.
You go, okay, now that I understand it, how do I want to put it together? How do I want to appoint it, decorate it, voice it? What wood do you put with the top? Those kind of decisions.
That seems like pretty fun process.
It is.
That's very cool.
So that reminds me, when we were walking through and we're going through tooling, you said that area is really kind of one of the things that sets Taylor apart.
Right.
And I think the experimentation and kind of having the learning switch always on is part of that. Can you kind of elaborate on the importance of being able to do your own tooling and what that means for building guitars?
Yeah. You don't make something good by accident. Right? If you made an accidentally good guitar, that means the next one might be accidentally bad. Right?
Yeah.
So the way that you make something good and consistent is you do it on purpose. So you have to eliminate all the variables, right? So people look at Taylor guitars and think, well, those are consistently good sounding, consistently good playing, consistently serviceable. The way you do that is you do it intentionally.
Yeah.
And so that means that for every part of every design, we're going to design a environment to build it in. We're going to design the tools that it should be made with, every fixture, template, gauge, fixture for holding apart, fixture for assembling apart, a recipe for doing the work, a way to finish it, a way to prepare the material to begin with. Every single aspect of every design was thought out on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that means that by the time you set all that in motion, the process of experimenting is over. You know what that thing needs to be. But I don't want to go through all that work just to find out on the other end, like, oh, we missed.
Yeah.
I should have tweaked this part, made it a little narrower, a little wider, whatever it is.
Right.
That's not the time to make that discovery. You're too late. And so I build all those guitars by hand.
Yeah.
And so when you look around this shop, my shop, you realize there's no tooling. There are a couple of old machines, my hand tools, not really even jigs, templates, kind of anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through the steps of building the guitar, discovering what it is, discovering what it should be, how to refine it. And then once I'm confident this is the guitar that we want to make, that's when I start translating it into a language that might be production friendly.
So with the guitar design process driving the machining and the production process,
Right.
how often do you like run into what is seemingly an insurmountable wall till you can figure it out?
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Because there are times I'll design something and I'll build it by hand and then stop, I'll catch myself and go, wait, how in the world am I going to do this? I mean, we've got a great team of engineers and machinists, tool makers, and we can usually work through things, but there are times where I might do something with a chisel and go, there is absolutely no way I can ask a person to do this. This is way too complex for me to even think about the method, the machine, the tool, the whatever it is. Okay, I'm just going to set that one aside. It's going to hang on the shelf until I discover a machine or a process or a tool or something that can help us get it made. You know, sometimes it's sitting down with our engineers because collectively we have a great amount of experience to go, well, I once worked on a race car, and back then we did this and that we used this kind of a machine, and it helped us to make a cut that was shaped like. And you work your way through this meandering path to a solution to go, man, this is amazing. I could actually do this thing that I thought was almost impossible, but turns out we can.
Yeah.
It just took us a little longer.
That's awesome.
I want to start going through some of those. Chris isn't being rude, checking his texts. We've got
Yes.
things written down for.
Well, yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
He's texting his friends. Right?
Sure, I have something from my wife on here. Like, where are you? Oh, I'm in San Diego. Well, so we kind of talked a little bit about it earlier when we were in the wood room, but you know, we all came out of the pandemic, and it was kind of like this best of times, worst of times, times of lack, times of plenty.
Yep.
What were some of the things that you learned during the pandemic that weren't just pandemic specific, but it's like it was a good lesson to just carry forward that kind of environment brought out?
I think more than anything, I learned that time with your friends, playing music, is more valuable than I ever really gave it credit for. It was valuable to me then,
Yeah.
but at the moment that you stop being near the people you care about, you realize that's not a life I want to live. And so really quickly, the ability to play a song with your friends, man, that mattered. I was in desperate need of that.
Yeah.
And so there were some aspects like that I think will leave a mark that you don't ever, I won't ever forget.
Yeah.
Well, what is valuable to me as a person, as a musician, as a guitar maker? I want people to be playing music. It's such a fundamental, like an elemental part of the human experience. I think it's something that people should never overlook. The value of playing an instrument, playing some songs for yourself, with your family, with your friends.
Well, what's that? You don't know what you got till it's gone. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
very
even
much.
I was reflecting on this, the fact that we got to get on a plane and fly across the country and sit across from you, and there's not a plastic barrier between us, and we can talk. It's something we take for granted.
Yeah. And so early on, I mean, I would I'd go hang out with a couple of friends, and you're sitting around a campfire in somebody's backyard and go, well, we got this. And this feels like an absolute treasure. This is precious.
Yeah.
That's a real experience that I'm glad to have.
That's awesome.
Quick side note on that, talking about playing music. What do you typically gravitate towards when you're playing, both genre type of music wise, and then also which guitar are you picking up the most right now for yourself?
The one that's closest. Honestly,
So it's
oftentimes
like us,
it's like
GS
your song. I need
Yeah.
I like playing a lot of different styles of music, a lot of different instruments. I love archtop guitars, so when I'm home or playing with friends, a lot of times I'll play an archtop guitar that I built. It's tough to go wrong with one of the American Dream guitars because it's everything that you need and sort of nothing you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those are great guitars. I really like the Grand Pacific shapes. I think that's great. I think the Builder's Edition 614 is a guitar that probably is the closest to a Swiss Army knife for me that I come across because it can kind of do anything depending on how I hold it, how I play it, what I do with it. So I don't know. I don't have a really
Yeah, that's
straight,
cool.
clear answer. I really like guitars. I like that. And so often
That's why
it's
we're
that
here, yeah.
I can find something good in the one that's closest to tan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild where we're at when we can just go in and play anything that we want.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it's pretty.
Yeah, it's like
Pretty special,
whatever
yeah.
strikes your fancy. I think that's one of the things that makes me feel a sense of wonder when I look at instruments. Oh, if I pick that one up, I'm not going to play the same thing on that one that I would on that one because that one's pulling me a different direction. That one's telling me something, even though I'm the one playing
Yeah.
it. It's sort of playing me.
It seems like magic, sort of, to think, okay, there's a wooden box with 6 strings on it made out of wood, and this one sounds different from this one, that sounds different from this
Yeah.
one. And sometimes you pick up a guitar and it's got a song already in it that seems to come out of the guitar, and you're like, where did that come from? It doesn't seem like it came from me.
Right.
It's weird.
Yeah,
and,
it was-
wonderful.
I was at, you guys know George Grun?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was up hanging out with him, I don't know how many years ago this was. And he's got a neat collection of instruments, always has something fun to look at, play with from just about every era. And so we're wandering around, and he had a couple of Lore-signed F5 mandolins that I was playing through. One of them had a Verzi, one of them didn't. Playing those, wow, these are neat, and they're so different from each other. He had a really neat early Mandocello at the same time that I was playing that. Played a couple of banjos that he had, played a neat archtop guitar, played a old Telecaster that he had, played a couple old Dreadnoughts, and then a Triple O, and then some, like a early Larson Brothers kind of thing, like all over the map, all
Yeah.
these different flavors. And after a couple hours, he finally just starts like chuckling and goes, you know, he goes, I don't know how many different instruments I've handed you in the last 4 hours, but you didn't play the same thing or sound like the same person playing on any of them.
Yeah.
Because they all are pulling something different out of you.
Yeah.
I go, I know. That's one of the things I love with instruments. They're all unique, and they pull a different thing out of a player.
Different experience every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To this day, I will say George is my favorite person to share an Uber with. Because that was enlightening, all the stories in a 10-minute car
Professor,
ride.
yeah.
That,
Yeah, man.
That collection is so cool. I have 2 GS Minis.
Cool.
So
Different flavors.
it's like
What's
George Grun's got his stuff.
Okay,
But
but-
when I'm at home, I can pick walnut or sapele. Yeah.
Well, you have one with a walnut top?
No,
Or
I
no?
have a walnut back and sides,
Okay.
and that one's got a
Wait,
pickup in
walnut
it.
top. Are we breaking news here?
Oh, I don't know. I might have just misstepped there. I built a couple like that because I really wanted to make one. So I've got one with a walnut top.
Oh, cool.
Well-
I really like the way that wood works.
Nice.
Maybe
Yeah.
someday.
Yeah. Well, that's what the academies with
Yeah.
the walnut top. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get that.
exactly. I think I built one as part of that suite. I was like, man, this walnut's really nice. I'm gonna make a couple of these.
That's
It,
cool.
it looks good. It sounds good. We're gonna eventually be able to show everybody cool customs that we put together today. I think the Queen's Walnut one's gonna be one of the coolest.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be a cool guitar.
Yeah.
Well, you asked me what I was excited about on them. I'm like, all of them.
Yeah.
It's like picking your favorite child.
We usually, when we're doing something for the store, it's like a run of 10, 20, 30 years of as one design. I'm so excited that we got to do individual, unique things today, and just like really.
Those are really fun flavors.
Yeah, it's our own little catch. You know?
Yeah. That's kind of what it turns into. Is you're looking at an individual instrument that will be fit for one player ultimately.
Yeah.
You know, lots of players might hop on it and go, "Yeah, I can. That's really cool." But it's going to fit best with one person.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. So we had a user submitted question about making a true classical guitar. And
Excellent.
I don't know if you know this story or not, that I ended up with 2 classical guitars. Do you know about this? That you built that I wasn't supposed to have?
Possible.
And then I gave them back.
Thanks, I appreciate
you're
that.
welcome. So we got these guitars, and then I remember opening it up and going, "What is this?" And if I recall correctly, they were spruce and
Rosewood?
No. It was a blonde wood.
Oh my gosh.
Cypress.
It was cypress.
Yeah,
It was cypress.
You weren't supposed to have those.
I was not supposed to have these, and
Nobody's supposed to have those.
and I remember sending a photo to JR and going, okay, yeah, these are great. Do you have any specs? He's like, oh wait, what happened? And I the devil on this shoulder just did kind of say, oh, sorry, they sold, and I don't have the person's name. My bad, but I shipped it back. So
That's really kind of you. Okay, so part of our process, watch, I'm turning red.
they were very good guitars.
Thank you.
Yes.
When I make things, like I was explaining earlier, I build everything by hand.
Yeah.
So I'll build something that I've got in the back of my mind, go, I'm going to turn it into a guitar. Let me make this guitar. I might play for one of those for a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, and then I'm going to start handing them around to different musicians and go, okay, I think this is really cool. How about you go take this on tour? Or how about you go take this into your studio, make a record with it, and tell me how it goes? Mm-hmm. And so I'll take some of my prototype guitars that are really not ready for prime time.
Right.
And I'll send them to different musicians because, it's a good way to get some feedback. Mm-hmm. Find out, well, is it just me? Do I think this is cool? I like it this way. How do you feel? Play it, touch it, whatever. And once in a blue moon, the case looks mostly the same as a standard guitar. By the time it's in a box, it looks mostly like a standard guitar. Right. By the time you put a label on the box, it looks like a standard guitar. Then you open it up and go, what do we got here?
Not a standard guitar.
Not a standard guitar. So yeah, once, hopefully that was the only time that's ever happened. But
so is there, I guess things get priority and things get put back
Right.
on the back burner, but we had someone submit because there's an interest in like a full-on classical guitar.
I'd love to
from
do
Taylor.
it. When the time is right.
Okay.
I've been working on it for a long time.
Yeah, never say never.
Long time.
Okay, well good. Then
I did a bunch of experimenting with that probably, I want to say it was 10 years ago, but I know it was more than that. And again, and again, and again. And more recently, I built one for a guy up in the Bay Area that was just, that was a knockout of a guitar. Wow, that was such a cool guitar. I didn't really want to send that one out, but he's got a neat piece for his collection.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So should we go through the rest of the user submitted?
Yeah, give me some.
Before we
ones.
do,
I know I got one of my own in there.
I want to put this in context to the rest of them. And the question is, what do you, as a guitar designer and builder and CEO of Taylor Guitars and everything, wish that the general guitar buying public wouldn't focus on so much, and would what is it that is underappreciated on guitars and over kind of focused on when it comes to guitar buying?
I think there's a risk when we turn into wood sellers and we sell wood in the form of a guitar. I love when people look at the guitar as a musical instrument that's for playing songs. So I get excited about a great piece of wood more than anybody else. I can promise you that. But it's not just the piece of wood, it's what you do with it. And at the end of the day, you want to build a great musical experience because you want to go play some songs with it. You want to hear some notes come out of the thing. That's, to me, where the magic really happens. And so I love when a guitar is appreciated as an instrument and it's fit very well with the person playing it. Because a guitar by itself, even if it's the most amazing wood, even if it was a great design built with amazing wood, it doesn't sound like anything until someone's playing it. So what I want to hear is a musician who picks this thing up and goes, I love the sound that comes out of this. It makes me want to play guitar. I love when musicians focus on that experience and not just what the thing was to begin with.
That was the correct answer.
Okay, I'm glad I passed the test.
Do you want to go through some of the user submitted
let's see
questions?
what we got here.
See, I wanted to ask that in context for all the rest of the questions. Everyone's going to be like, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And you know, how come this option isn't available?
There's some interesting ones in here that are really quick, and then there's some that you can tell these people really dug in.
There was one that was numbered to 7. Yes.
Wow.
I might skip around for a moment. Okay, so first off, John is wondering from you, why moving, I mean, he's perceiving Taylor is moving more to satin finish than gloss finish. And kind of getting your thoughts on why that's a trend for the company and what you like more about satin finishes and all that.
Because I like it.
That's a good ansher.
It's the right answer.
That's a great answer.
There's a couple of subtle things in there. One of them is that I like a wider variety of finish densities based on the context, the kind of sound I want to get out of the guitar, the damping factor, some of its aesthetic value. You know, not everybody wants a shiny guitar. Not everybody wants a flat, dull, granola-looking guitar. I like varieties.
I like the feel of it.
Yeah,
I do
for
love
me,
the feel of it.
Like, it sounds weird, but like if I'm in front of a microphone and you're playing this thing, you might start sweating or whatever. I squeak on glossy finishes. Like my arm will squeak and makes weird.
Squeaky Andy.
Yeah, it makes weird noises in front of a microphone. I'd rather the kind of more subtle sound of a satin finish in front of a microphone oftentimes. That's why I did the Builder's Edition that way.
Yeah.
I'm piggybacking a little off his question, and also with satin finishes, there's a lot of different variations of bursts and different colors and all that. And we talked about it a little bit when you're picking out woods and kind of what you envision. But I don't think a ton of people think that much about what you were saying about kind of matching a top and back and side. So maybe talk a little bit about bursts and how they work into your vision and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of different looks, but when I make a guitar, I want it to be a cohesive whole. You don't assemble a guitar from pieces. That's not how a great instrument's typically made. You have at least you should try to have a finished vision of what the thing is. Like I've said it in a kind of an elliptical way that maybe it makes sense, but you want the guitar to look the way it sounds and sound the way it feels.
Yeah.
Or you want all the sensory experiences that come out of a guitar to tell you a story. Like it feels weird when something's off. You know, maybe you have this bright, super deep gloss, shiny, ultra modern looking guitar, and then the sound comes out of it. It's actually very traditional, almost old-fashioned. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like an off-putting kind of thing because the look and the sound don't match each other.
Right.
You know, if I had a sound that come out of the guitar like that, I sort of want it to look and feel that way too, so that the sensory experience is a cohesive picture.
I think that's interesting because we've done a good amount of customs that we've worked JR on, you know, for customers that have a pretty specific vision, and sometimes, just like today, you said it a few different times, that would work or that wouldn't work.
Right.
And it's not a question of we can't do this. That's not going to make a cohesive look or feel or something. So I think that's a good thing for people to know going into making a Taylor custom. Some things may not work in that configurator, but it's for a reason. It's not because we can't do it or we want to. It's just, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's like physically you could put a lot of things together and it will, yes, you can fit them together. Yes, you can glue the parts together. Yes, you could put strings on it. Yes, you could probably play it. Will it work well? Probably not. because you mixed flavors that don't go together.
Garlic,
That-
ice cream.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you want to put something together where it's going to function very well and satisfy a player.
There's a question that was asked that I think is along these lines, and it was instead of a mahogany neck, doing like a flame maple neck. And maple is a neck option in some of the series, but I'm sure there's a reason with feel and construction probably that you wouldn't do
A curly
that with
maple
other
neck.
things. Yeah,
Sometimes I do. I
Okay.
like it when it works.
with the right guitar.
Yeah, right guitar, right context for the right player. It can work really cool. I don't often find curly maple in the type of maple that I want for a neck. And so I don't often use it once in a while. I like hard maple, which sometimes, and I like it to be quarter sawn. And so sometimes I can find it, sometimes I can't. I don't really want to use big leaf maple for a neck. I've tried that and I don't like it that
Yeah.
much. At least the way we build a neck right now, so I don't do that. So there's a lot of choices. Some of them are very practical, like, yeah, that physically doesn't work as well. It's not reliable, or it doesn't serve a musician very well, or whatever the reason might be. Others are, you could do that, but it's going to be really weird and look like a bad tattoo on somebody's arm or something. You're like, no, don't do that.
I
I'll save you from yourself.
did notice there was a few things that we looked at. It was pretty limited supplies, and then you said the last time I got this, I got to do a limited run with it. And so it doesn't seem like there's much when it comes to something unique or cool that you're like, oh, we're gonna hold on to that and wait. Like,
Right.
it seems like you're kind of excited to make something with it. You know,
It's like when you get something new from, I don't know, it's like my daughter, she's a great painter, great artist. She loves going to an art supply store and looking at new brushes and paints. There's all kinds of things. You bring that one home, man, it's not home for like 30 seconds before that thing is globbed in paint. Like, oh, I can't hardly wait to use this. This is so cool. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
So I get that feeling. I get it.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, this one was submitted by a Cooper Greenberg. Is there a chance at a USA-made square-shouldered dreadnought?
Probably not in the real near future. I like that design. We've built some really cool dreadnoughts. I really like the Grand Pacific shape. At the end of the day, I designed that one around the same time that I was working through V-class architecture and went, man, these things work so good together. I just love the way this works. I think I'll go with that for now.
I think that's cool. The only reason I ask is because I never got the chance to snag a 510 with the slotted.
The short scale ones?
Yeah.
And I love that. But in that vein, would you ever do like a 12 fret GP or something like that?
I've thought about it.
I would love to see an Alcoa 12 fret GP. I think
Well,
that'd
that
be
throws another ingredient in there. That's an interesting one to consider.
a tribute to Hawaii.
Yeah.
A slack key
about that.
guitar.
Yeah, something like
I'll
that.
think about that.
Yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool. I would get one of those.
Very cool. You want to go through some?
Yeah, let's see what we got
Yeah,
here.
go
I
for it.
think I got another question here from me.
Yes.
Um,
From a Cooper Greenberg.
Yeah. It's so funny. You get
was up at the top.
some people asking about songs that you play. I'm like,
I
Andy doesn't
know.
know the question.
Well, I played that one Andy Power song that I play wrong, but
So do I.
I
I'm
only
sure
heard it the
I'm
one
wrong.
time, so
So
Might have only played it one time.
these are some kind of spec things that somebody is wondering, would you ever consider this? So they've
for
got
it.
3 in there, a pinless bridge.
Yes, I consider it often, and I usually say no. Because there's a lot of physics involved that change the way string tension is applied to a top. Rather than anchoring the ball on the underside of the top, at the bottom of the bridge plate, and pulling kind of up and then at a right angle, you're pulling in a straight line. I don't often like the way that works for a steel string guitar. On the other hand, I love the way that it works on a nylon string guitar. So for a classical guitar, so think of just imagine you're using this tie block kind of thing. It works awesome.
Yeah.
It's so good because you're magnifying one set of forces, and the way that the string tension gets loaded into the top. Pin bridge works a little different.
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
So yeah, I think about it all the time.
Well, I remember way back when the 400 series was pinless, and then it
For, like,
switched.
that
yeah,
long.
for like yeah.
The next question amongst here is a fresh redwood top versus a sinker redwood top. Like
Splitting
something
hairs, man.
something that was not sunk.
The difference between them tends to be more in the age of the tree than the physicality of the tree, of the influence of, say, mineral content, tannic acid changing colors. That's really more of a visual cue. If they were put next to each other and I had a fresh redwood tree that had in every other way similar characteristics, density, hardness, stiffness, grain count, I wouldn't be able to hear the difference.
Yeah.
Because you're going to put that thing into the context of a guitar. You've got so many variables going on in an acoustic guitar. I mean, how old the strings are is going to make more of a difference than those two tops. What pick you're holding, how much coffee you drank, what back and sides, what shape, what...
Lots.
There's a lot of variables.
So it really has more to do with the age of the top, the sinker stuff being older than you would typically see a
you tend to
non-sinker redwood.
you tend to see slow growing old trees that sank because they were cut down way back when.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a glimpse into the past.
Right.
The last one on here was a deep body grand concert.
That's something I've actually been interested in.
Yeah, that's cool.
That is cool.
That's cool.
So-
once in a while I'll do it.
Yeah.
I haven't done it lately, but we also see it in our Academy guitars. You notice those bodies aren't the same depth as an El Cajon one. One of the other things that a lot of people don't pay attention to is the Builder's Edition Grand Auditorium guitars are actually a different body depth and taper than our standard models. You look at it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, nobody measures both ends, but the relationship between the top and back are not the same between them.
But I feel like there's a lot of other little subtleties like wood thickness between different species and series, and
Oh yeah,
and-
a lot of that, like back braces.
Yeah,
we don't use the same back brace set on different woods.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of different voicings that we've created to go. Well, that backwood operates like this. To control it and the way that I want it to move, it's going to use this set of back braces that are voiced this way. This one that's also going on the same side guitar. It's
Yeah.
different kind of thing.
Does V-class subtly change? Like if you say have a spruce
Yeah,
top
there's a
versus
bunch.
Koa
There's a
and all
bunch
that?
of different variations.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
There's a million parts in that room.
that's cool.
So, kind of going into 14 fret versus 12 fret, what can the switch work on, and are there things that you cannot make the switch to a 12 fret?
I really love it on a smaller body
Yeah.
most of the time. I love going both directions on a small body because of where the bridge is and how it articulates the lower bout. Some guitars, like a GO, 12 fret's not a good mix. It's emphasizing the wrong part of its resonance curve. It doesn't work great.
Say if you just took grand concerts, are there certain wood pairings that would reflect better or worse going from 14 to 12 fret, or could that
Almost
work on
any of
anything.
those work.
Yeah.
Almost any of those work, and they almost always work well.
Yeah, we both are big fans of 12 frets, so yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So am I.
Yeah,
I'm also
they're
a fan
awesome.
of the 14 fret version. They just do different
I'm a
things.
fan of everything.
That's a quote for the wall.
Yes.
I'm a fan of
a
everything.
fan of everything.
We're short on time, but do you have one more that you've picked out?
Yeah, it's actually not from here. It's you mentioned your daughter earlier, and it brought to remembrance something you've kind of talked about in the past, and I wanted to ask how much you thought this influenced things. But I've always thought you've had a unique upbringing that's brought you to this point. And your dad was a carpenter,
Yeah,
right?
still
And,
is.
I mean, you built your first guitar when you were 7?
7, 8. I don't really know.
How much do you think nature versus nurture has brought you to this point? Like,
I don't know, man. I will say
you're
that
not an accountant.
yeah. Some people really love accounting.
Sure.
Almost anything is learnable.
Yeah.
So I believe that. And I think beyond that, we have certain things that we fall into because they just resonate with the person. I was very, very fortunate to grow up the way that I did because I was given a lot of freedom to pursue the things that I was interested in. And so I'm absolutely positive that if my parents hadn't let me go, well, you want to play with guitars? Go for it. You want to use the tools and try and build one? Go for it. That one broke. You want to try again? Go for it. If I didn't have that opportunity, I never would have pursued it.
Right.
Absolutely never would have pursued it. I'd like to think that I would have, but I don't. If you don't have the context or the environment to do it, well, that's a big, we're closed sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Bob's case, he got to pursue it because he loved making things. He loved the industrial arts, but he also had a really great couple of shop teachers and an environment that industrial arts were being taught in.
Yeah.
So you have the space to do it. You have the permission to do it. And so I think that's a part of it.
More shop classes.
Yeah.
More
Yeah,
shop
absolutely.
classes.
It's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to watch a kid in front of a Bridgeport machine.
Well, my eldest son.
It's amazing.
I think I told you he's in construction now, and it started with a shop class, and then it developed into a construction academy.
I
And
think
now,
that's
and now he absolutely
great.
just loves that.
Absolutely.
And if he never had that opportunity, he'd probably be doing something different.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks
Man, thanks for coming, you guys. It's fun
Indulging us.
to
Yeah.
hang out, fun to visit.
It's been very awesome for us. So yeah, thank you.
Well, and the invitation's extended. You gotta come see us.
Now you got.
I will do it. Next time I'm that direction, we'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Please do.
Thanks.
It's a pleasure, you guys.